I was drafted 9th overall in the Major League Baseball draft. And if it were to happen again tomorrow, here's the exact moves that I would make. You see, every Major League Baseball player that gets drafted has real opportunities. But the problem is, we don't know what these opportunities are on draft day, and the clock is ticking. You see, I know this because I've been down this path before, from MLB Draftee to big leaguer to experiencing about every high low along the way. And the reality is, one of these opportunities I missed, and it cost me almost $100,000. Now, after retiring, my goal is to help players like you make sure that they're making the most of their opportunity set. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 5 opportunities that every MLB draftee needs to know, particularly the ones they need to know before they even get drafted. Now let's dive in. Draft night. 2009. And you might think that I had a good idea that I was going to get drafted, but the reality was, it was a little bit like Houdini's black box. I had no idea what was going to happen. So when Bud Selig walked across that stage and he said, with the 9th overall pick in the 2009 MLB draft, the Detroit Tigers select Jacob Turner, I was as surprised as every single Detroit Tigers fan out there. I had no idea they were about to pick me. And that set in motion a game that I had never even played before. A game where the clock was ticking faster than I even realized. And that's the same opportunity set that every single Major League Baseball draftee has. And the reality is, doing it right can mean the difference between making $104,000 total retirement contribution and turning into $4.7 million later on. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how an MLB draftee can do this. But to start, we have to understand what the foundation of this contract even means. So let's talk about that. The first move that every MLB draftee needs to understand is the contract structure. And what do I mean by this? Well, I can break it down into really 3 segments. Number 1, you need to understand when you're actually going to get paid your signing bonus. For most draftees, this means 50% in year 1 and 50% in year 2. Now, when I say year 1, what I mean is 30 days after you sign that contract, you're going to get paid 50% of whatever you sign for. And typically, in the next year, you're going to get paid the other 50%. But you need to understand this is negotiable. And depending on how high you get drafted, you might have enough leverage to be able to push more money into year 1 or more money into year 2, which can make a difference on taxes. Number 2, you need to understand the contract language, specifically a clause in that contract. If you have a contract clause called the abandonment clause, here's what that means. And I know it might sound a little Greek, but let me explain it to you in really simple terms. If you have it in there, it simply means that if you were to quit baseball tomorrow, the day after you sign that contract, the team could claw back some of that money. Sounds reasonable, but here's the difference that it makes. No longer is that bonus taxed as a true signing bonus. And here's what that means. No longer is it actually taxed in your state of residency. No, it's actually taxed where you're playing at. So what that means is you have far less control over your tax planning opportunities if you have the abandonment clause in your contract. And the third piece of contract structure that you need to understand is when exactly is that first payment coming? Now, I mentioned it usually comes within the first 30 days, but not always the case. And in fact, you can potentially push it out to maybe even 45 days. And here's why that matters. Having the structure in place is going to allow for the next 4 planning opportunities to even happen in the first place. If you get the money too fast and you don't know what the next step is, chances are you might be like me and be missing out on some of these opportunities. So let's talk about what those opportunities look like. Arguably, the biggest opportunity set out there is state residency. And if you're a baseball fan, if you're a player about to get drafted, or if you're a mom or dad of a player that's about to get drafted, this is probably something that you've heard all the way from the time that your son got good enough that somebody even mentioned the MLB draft. You should think about state taxes, state residency. And here's the reality. That opportunity set for me as an MLB draftee that signed for $5.5 million meant the difference between $275,000 in state income tax. You see, I lived in the state of Missouri. We have a 5% state income tax. On $5.5 million, that's $275,000. If I would have had Florida residency when I signed, before I got that first paycheck, see how that structure matters? Instead of paying $275,000, I would have paid a big, fat, whopping $0. But the opportunity set that I missed was I didn't know about this beforehand. You see, as a high school draftee, I didn't know how fast the clock was going to be ticking on me. I didn't know what steps to take. And this is why, in our business, we try to make sure that every single player that works with us at Moment Private Wealth is set up for success far before they ever hear their name called. Because the reality is state residency can be a huge opportunity set, but you need to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row before you ever hear your name called. Because if anybody tells you that all you have to do is change your driver's license and that affects state residency, I'm here to tell you they're wrong. In fact, we have a multi-step checklist that we take every single athlete through to make sure that they're putting their best foot forward, to make sure that they can save the absolute maximum amount they can in state taxes. Now, you might think that that's the biggest opportunity, And some might argue it is, but there's 3 other opportunities and they all matter just as much. So let's talk about the next one. So you get your paycheck and you see that Uncle Sam took out a ton of money. In fact, typically what they will take out for a signing bonus is they're going to take out 22% of the first $1 million. And after the first $1 million, they're most likely going to take out about what you owe, which is going to be 37%. Now, that might seem like a lot of money and you're going to be in shock and awe, but I'm here to tell you the other part that is going to make you have even more shock and awe is you're actually going to owe more than that. And here's what I mean. Let's do the math on this together. On a $5.5 million signing bonus, you break it into 2 segments. $2.75 million each year. Now, if they take out 22% of the first million and 37% of the money over top the $1 million, what does that leave you with? That means the team would have withheld roughly $867,500 in taxes. A ton of money, but not actually the right amount. And here's where the problem stems. If you don't run tax projections, which is the number 3 planning opportunity for MLB draftees, then what you are going to fail to understand is that when tax season comes around next April, you are actually going to owe more than $100,000 more. So what should you be doing as a draftee to make sure that you maximize this opportunity set? Well, number 1, you need to make sure that you have a team that's running tax projections. This is something that is the first step that we do for every MLB draftee that we work with when that first signing bonus comes in. And what do we make sure we do is any money that we're going to be owing to taxes above and beyond that what got withheld from the team, we're going to be having it marked in an interest-bearing account. We're going to be earning some money on it, but we're not going to be taking on any risk with this money because we're going to be owing this to the federal government typically in the next 6 to 10 months. Now, on that $2.75 million, you owe roughly $1.017 million. So what that means is you owe more than $150,000 more than what the team took out. And you want to make sure that you have that money set aside in an interest-bearing account so you are set up for success come next tax season and there's no huge surprises. You might think state residency and taxes are huge components or maybe even the only components of this process. Now, I'm here to tell you they are massive components, but they're certainly not the only ones. The next one we're going to talk about is one that could be the difference between you having $4+ million in a retirement account by the time you're the age of 60 or 0. Let me explain. When it comes to retirement accounts as a professional athlete, oftentimes we think about these as the last things because you might be 18, you might be 21 years old. You're not thinking about what you're going to be doing when you're age 60, but I'm here to tell you, it is an incredible opportunity set. And I'm going to walk you through what the math looks like if you do this right. So what are these retirement accounts I'm talking about? Well, there's really 3 of them for a Major League Baseball draftee. Number 1, the MLB 401k. In 2026, a player can contribute $24,500 in the MLB 401k. But here's the thing you need to understand. You need to make sure that you have that election done typically 2 weeks before the team is going to pay out the bonus. And if you don't, you're not going to have the money going into that account. So why does that matter so much? Well, first and foremost, if you're in the highest tax bracket, it's going to save you roughly $9,000 in taxes this year. You're also going to get money into this retirement account that's going to be tax deferred until in the future when you take this money out. Now, the 2 other accounts that you can potentially contribute to is a Roth IRA. We do this through a backdoor Roth IRA strategy at Moment for all of our MLB draftees. $7,500 is that number. And the next retirement account that you can contribute to, something called a solo 401k. Now, this is only with off the field income, but if you have enough of it, roughly $290,000, you can contribute another $72,000 into this solo 401k. Now, we're talking huge tax savings here, $25,000 plus in year 1. So between these 3 retirement accounts, we've saved roughly $35,000 in taxes. Now I want to show you the real math of what this could turn into in the future. You put $24,500 in your MLB 401k. You put $7,500 into your Roth IRA, and you put another $72,000 into your solo 401k. So all 3 combined, you have $104,000 in retirement accounts. Now consider you're probably around 20 years old. You're not going to be using this money till you're roughly 60 years old. So you have 40 years to let this money continue to grow. Let's say you make 10% a year on this money. What do you think it turns into? It turns into $4.7 million. $4.7 million from 3 little retirement accounts that you contributed $104,000 total to 40 years ago. Now consider when I said that tax projections and when I said that state residency were huge opportunities, but I also said that there was another big one coming down the pipe. This is what I meant. $4.7 million, all because you nailed 3 retirement accounts way back 40 years ago when you first signed that contract. But the reality is you have to make sure that you do this on the upfront. You have to make sure that the timing of this is right. Because remember when I said the clock is ticking? Well, the clock is really ticking on these retirement accounts. So we talked about contract structuring. We talked about tax projections. We talked about retirement accounts. But I want to finish with one that I think every MLB draftee really wants to hear about. What can I spend, Jacob? And I want to explain how we walk through every MLB draftee, when they first get their bonus, what they can spend and what they should not spend. And the way that we break this down is really into two buckets. Bucket one is what we call lifestyle purchases. This simply means I could buy this thing forever in perpetuity, every single year if I wanted to buy it. This might be the groceries at the grocery store. It's going to be kind of boring things. On the other side, these are where our fun, exciting things are. These are where our reward purchases are. But the difference is these are one-time purchases that we are rewarding ourselves for the opportunity set that we have, for all the hard work that we put in to even get to the place that we're at to be able to earn this signing bonus. So what did I do? First of all, I actually didn't buy anything huge when I first started out. Actually, the most expensive purchase that I made when I signed my contract was a new MacBook Pro. It's a couple $1,000s. The other big purchase that I made about a year later was a $100,000 car, a car that I had always wanted. And here's the reality. Buying that $100,000 car, was it the greatest purchase I could have ever made? No, it actually was a terrible purchase because about 4 years later, I sold it for about $40,000. So I lost $60,000 in that car. But did it actually hurt my financial life? No. Not really. And the reason why is because it was in this bucket of reward purchases. I knew I was only going to do this thing one time. This wasn't going to be an ongoing lifestyle expense. This was going to be something fun that I was going to reward myself with for actually getting drafted as high as I did and getting the signing bonus I got. On the lifestyle thing, I was able to do everything I wanted to do because I built my lifestyle slowly. Now, I wasn't going out and living this massive lifestyle where all of a sudden these costs were continuing to compound. And this is the thing that you need to understand if you're an MLB draftee. You are coming into a situation where you need to make sure that you are separating out what your lifestyle expenses are from what your reward purchases are. One is an everyday purchase, probably a boring one. And the second one is a one-time purchase, probably a really exciting one. But you need to make sure that you group these in these two buckets, because if not, what will happen to you is what I see with so many players, where all of a sudden the lifestyle spending gets out of control and they have these recurring expenses every single month over and over and over again. And frankly, the lifestyle just can't support it. You have to remember that you have the greatest superpower of all time. You have time on your side. What that means is every single dollar that you get to invest today, you're going to have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years to let this money grow and compound. So before you run out and make that huge purchase, just remember what the opportunity cost is of every dollar that you spend that you don't save. 5 moves that will make or break the foundation of your money game. You see, because an athlete, it's not just about what you're doing on the field. It's also about what you're doing off the field. And the reality was, in 2009, when the Detroit Tigers called and they picked me, it wasn't that I wanted to miss out on any of these opportunity sets. I just didn't know about them. I wasn't thinking far enough in advance. Look, I get it. We want to be focused on the field, especially as the draft's coming up. It's what I tell every athlete. But you need to make sure that you have people on your team that are looking at all these things that are off the field. Because you're not going to just randomly end up with $4.7 million in retirement accounts. No, you have to actually make those moves. You're not going to just randomly end up with $275,000 in state income tax savings. No, you're going to actually have to make those moves. You're not going to randomly end up not owing a bunch of money to the IRS come next April and have a big surprise. No, you need to actually make those moves. And that's exactly what we help athletes do at Moment Private Wealth. We help them make those moves so that they can keep their focus on the field. My goal, since I got done with playing baseball, has been really simple. I want to educate the next generation of athletes so that you too can maximize your opportunity set. As always, my goal is to help you get smarter with your money. Until next time, my friends.